Hi, and welcome to week 4 of the 8th grade RPS at Home math modules. I am Ms. Shawn Newkirk, the Title I math coach at Albert Hill Middle School, working alongside Mrs. Tyler Siebers, math teacher at Benford Middle School, and Mrs. Michelle Kenneth, the Title I math coach at Lucille Brown. This week's SOL is SOL 8.13, where we're going to collect, organize, and represent a data set of no more than 20 items using ScatterPlots. There was no independent practice or homework to go over today because there was nothing assigned on Friday. Today's objective states that I can construct a scatter plot given data on graph paper and identify data points in a given scatter plot. Materials needed are paper, preferably that of graph paper, and a pencil. Important vocabulary terms that we need to focus on for today are as follows: independent variable, dependent variable, line of best fit, positive relationships, negative relationships, and no correlation. These vocabulary terms will be discussed and illustrated for you throughout this week's lesson. Pictorial representations of 3 important vocabulary relationships are as follows. For a positive linear relationship, we will see an upward trend or a positive increase in our data. So as the x-coordinates increase, so do the values of our y-coordinates, giving us an upward or a positive linear relationship. For a negative linear relationship, we will notice that when the x-coordinates increase, our y-coordinates decrease, giving us a downward trend, which is a negative linear relationship. When there is no direct correlation between our x and y coordinates, that is known to be no linear relationship. On the next slide, you will find instructional videos that will go more in depth as to what a scatter plot is and how to create them. I ask that you pause the video at this time, watch both of the instructional videos, and take notes. We will come back after you have had an opportunity to do so and move on with independent practice. Please pause the video at this time and rejoin the video once you are done watching the videos and taking the notes. Welcome back. It is now time to complete your independent practice. Here is example number 1. Using the table to the left, create a scatter plot of the data. Please pause the video at this time. Take out your paper and pencil, and using your notes, try to construct a scatter plot representing this data. When you are ready, press play so that we can go over your answers.
All right, so looking at example 1 here, we're given this XY table, which I just copied over here. If you look, you'll notice that your range for your X values range from 0 to 4, and our Y values range from 1 to 6. So I created that X and Y axis just like we were taught in the videos, and I went ahead and put my numbers up there as well. I skipped lines because we're dealing with some decimal points here and our range is not very long, big, just so that we had a little bit more space and it was easier to plot. If you do not have graph paper, it is okay. You can do this on regular paper too. Graph paper just makes it a little bit easier because you are able to see exactly halfway and follow those lines so that you know that you are straight. So looking here, I'm gonna go ahead and start by plotting my first point. I have my X coordinate is 0 and my Y coordinate as 1. So this point right here is our origin. That would be 0. So 0, 1, I'm going to go ahead and put a point there. My second one would be 0, 1.5. So still at 0, going up to 1.5 here. Following my next X value, I have my X is 1 and my Y is 2. So on my X axis, I'm going to go over to 1, and my Y axis, I'm going to go up to 2. So that's going to be my next point. Then I have 2 and 4.5, so over to 2, up to 4.5. 4.5 is just halfway in between that 4 and 5, so it's going to be right here. I have 3 and 4.5, so they'll be close to each other on that same Y value there. I then have 3 again and 5, so I'm going to be close to here. And then my last one is 4 and 6, so over to 4 and all the way up to 6 there. So that is what your scatter plot would look like for example 1.
Now, looking at example number 2, the graph shows the lengths and widths of 10 brown trout, but the table is missing the weight of the 26-inch trout. We ask that you pause the video at this time and use the data that is on the graph to determine the weight of the trout that is 26 inches long. After you have made your decision and written down your value, please come back to the slide and press play so that we can go over your answers.
The graph shows the lengths and weights of 10 brown trout, but the table is missing the weight of the 26-inch trout. What is an approximate weight of the trout that is 26 inches long? So here is our table. We have x, and we have the function of x, which is also known as our y. So the length is in inches. Those are those values here. You'll find those in the x-axis of the graph. The weight is in ounces. You'll find those here, which is in the y portion of your graph there, your y-axis. So it's asking what is the weight of the 26-inch trout. So coming down here, you'll look for your 26 inches, and that would be shortly after the 24, which would be right about here. So if I come up and I'm looking for that point where the 26 would have been, that would be right here, which would be just under 120. So trying to figure out a closer estimate for that, we can look at the spread of our axis here. So if this is 0, and then we go up to 40 and then 80, each unit block here is actually 20 ounces. So we would go from 40, this would be 60 right here, 80, this would be 100 right here, and then 120. So we're somewhere in between 100 and 120, closer to that 120 mark. So any number that would be in between 100 and 120, closer to the 120, so probably 115 or above, that would be a totally fine answer for that.
Now, for example number 3, we ask that you look at the graph to the left, identify at least 6 sets of data points that are on the graph, and represent the data points in ordered pairs. So please pause the video at this time, make your selections, and then come back and reference your responses to that are given on the solutions slide. Welcome back. Here are the solutions that are given from the table. Please look at your solutions and see how close or how far apart you are from your answer choices. If there are big discrepancies, please refer back to the graph to see where it was exactly that your response may be inaccurate. All right, we're on to the next part of our practice and homework. We ask that you look at the following 2 questions and select the data points that are shown in the scatter plot. So you are given 6 data points. We ask that you look at those 6 data points and decide which ones are actually graphed on the graph above. And for the second question, the table provides different prices for a specific amount of beef. We want you to identify which scatter plot correctly displays this data. Please take a moment to answer both of these homework problems, and we will go over your responses during tomorrow's lesson. So to end today's section, we'd like for you to please log on to Dreambox to complete at least one lesson. Remember, Dreambox is located in your Clever account, and you will be able to find your activities that have been assigned there. We ask that you please complete at least one lesson per day. Thanks for joining us today, and we will be with you again tomorrow.